Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KGUN9 streaming sports talk show. We come to you each week at this time, Tuesday afternoon, 3 o'clock here, Tucson time. I'm KGUN9 sports director Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris, our main news anchor, also former St. Louis Cardinals broadcaster, does some sports for KGUN. Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good. Speaking of the Cardinals, you saw who they drafted in the first round, 21st pick, Chase Davis. Guess who called that? Guess who called that heading into after the 20th pick? I said, I think they're going to take Chase Davis.
For the second year in a row, an Arizona player is taken in the first round. Catcher Daniel Susac last year, outfielder Chase Davis this year. So Wildcats actually well represented in the draft, and
they did well.
And, good to see another first rounder go, and hope it'll be excited to follow his career as he makes his way up the minor leagues.
Yeah, maybe the next Jim Edmonds in center field or something for the Cardinals. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be nice. Also, speaking of former Wildcats, we have, Pat, 11 of them in the NBA Summer Pro League. Okay, so here's we need 2 sheets of paper for the list. Here's the first one. Okay, so I'm going to go down some of the names, which some of them you expect, some of them a little surprising, and just feel free to jump in and stop me here as I go through each one. Okay. All right. Chance Comanche with the Kings. Remember, he played with the Wildcats from 15 to 17. Left school too early. That's going to be a little theme here. You're going to see. Played in Turkey, made his NBA debut for Portland late last year, evidently picked up by the Kings, been in the G League too. Chance Comanche, a big man in there. Okay. Cedric Henderson Jr., of course, he played this past season for the Wildcats. He's with the Cavs. Justin Kier played the year before last, Tommy Lloyd's first year with the G League with the Austin Spurs. He's still with the Spurs. So he was playing with Victor Wembanyama, who's not going to play the rest of the NBA Summer League. Nico Mannion, apparently the Golden State Warriors no longer have his rights. He's been playing in Italy. I thought he was happy there, but he's with the Bucks in the NBA Summer League. Surprised to see Ben Mathurin on the list after the year that Mathurin had as a rookie. Not sure what he needs to work on. Any thoughts on Ben Mathurin playing in the NBA Summer League?
Well, first of all, you've got the have and the have-nots on that list. The Ben Mathurin is the have. He's got a game. He's got game. I'm a little surprised he's playing, but then again, I'm not. They like to see guys, going up against good competition. He's got some good competition to go up against. But you're right. After that terrific rookie season where at one point he looked like he might be rookie of the year, or at least potentially, this is a guy that's made an impact already with Indianapolis. Or Indiana Pacers. I think that he's the cream of the crop of these guys that we're talking about, but good for him. Wants to get more playing, get more games under his belt and got some competition to play against. And I look for him to make an even bigger jump from year 1 to year 2 for the Pacers.
Very interesting. All right. Now, here's a surprise. Keanu Pinder. Now, if anybody forgets, I believe Keanu Pinder was DeAndre Ayton's backup.
It was DeAndre Ayton's backup. Yeah. And Jason, he was a really solid player. And I thought he was the kind of guy that I didn't think he'd ever be in the NBA, but I thought he'd make a nice career playing down under or playing over in Europe or something. And here he is playing for the Suns.
Might be DeAndre Ayton's backup again. Get this about Keanu Pinder. He was the most improved player in Australia's NBL, not once, but twice. First, he played for the 36ers. That's a team in Australia, then a new team. So I made that comment to somebody, Pat, and they're like, well, either he's improved a lot or he was really bad to begin with.
Maybe a little.
I've never seen a player win most improved twice.
But maybe that's just it. Maybe he was not playing very well when he first got there. He had a big breakout season, and then he even did better than that. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but he was always a solid player, but never expected too much out of him. And maybe now he's a go-to guy. We'll see. That's the kind of guy that might sneak into you never know, might sneak into a roster or at least maybe move back and forth between the Suns and the G League team. You never know.
Also, if there was one criticism of Sean Miller's coaching, and he's a terrific coach, but the development of big men was a knock I've heard before. I mean, why didn't Keanu Pinder improve so much when he was a Wildcat? The way that, say, an Umar Ballo improved under Tommy Lloyd.
And Christian Coloco with the big jump that he made. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go to the second sheet now. Okay. Brandon Randolph, again, the theme, he's been a G League player, definitely left too soon. Kobe Simmons, kind of in the same boat. Kobe Simmons, though, has clawed his way back to the NBA and now has
Right.
a contract with the Hornets.
Yeah, that's interesting to see. So somebody must be seeing some improvement. They're talking about, most improved. Maybe he's made improvement and they're giving him another shot.
Yeah. Now, Dalen Terry is the perfect guy, Pat, for the NBA Summer League. Okay. Maybe he left too soon. Maybe he didn't after 2 years. Didn't play a lot with the Bulls last year. Was at the G League for a little bit. Here's somebody who's really taking advantage of the extra playing time. And he's had a good Summer League so far.
Yeah, and that's the kind of area he needs to really focus on is getting more opportunities to play against good talent and develop his game. And it's the game that transition game. We saw Ben Mathurin do it because Ben Mathurin was pretty much pro ready when we saw him playing at the University of Arizona. Dalen Terry is just a great athlete, and everybody said that, and that's why the Bulls select him as high as they did in the first round. And that was because they look at an athlete who's going to develop. This is his time to develop because he's not going to get as much playing time during the NBA season as he would during the summer league or in a G League game. So this is his time to really shine.
Everyone's familiar with Azuolas Tubelis from playing for the Wildcats the last 3 years. Was not drafted, did not want to be drafted once he got late to the second round. He and his agent thought the 76ers would be a kind of a good fit for him, maybe say the way that the Knicks were for Alonzo Trier. Didn't score in his first summer league game. I watched a little bit in the second game, only had 3 points. Not sure Azuolas Tubelis is gonna make an NBA team. Be interesting to see if he goes the G League route or overseas where he's from.
Overseas,
But
yeah.
during this past year, Tommy Lloyd said he reminds him of Sabonis and some other compliments. But I don't know that Tubelis can step out and hit a three, and it just doesn't seem like he looks like an NBA player right now, Pat.
To me, Jason, in this entire list that you're showing, and Brandon Williams is the final guy on there, with the exception of a couple of guys that aged out or ran out of eligibility, most of these guys, and with the exception of Ben Mathurin, these guys are all the classic case of they went out a little too early. Even a Dalen Terry, in my estimation, could have used one more year. Did I blame him for going? No, because the scouts told him he's going to go potentially in the first round.
Mid-first round, yeah.
Yeah, and he did.
Money-wise, he didn't go out too early. Development-wise, one more year would have been great.
One more year, and that's the whole thing. And you've got to weigh that out if you're a player. I'll never ever second guess a player. They know the reasons why they did it. They get the advice. They do it. Azuolas Tubelis, I still look at him and say, maybe he's never going to be an NBA pro, but he certainly isn't an NBA player right now. And so
you don't improve that much from year 3 to year 4 in college.
No, you don't. You don't. But maybe you get just a little bit better. Maybe you just get that much better, Jason, and you end up getting drafted by a team. And you know as well as I do, when a team drafts someone, they give them a lot more opportunities versus a guy who they just signed as a free agent who went undrafted. You get extra opportunities. You get more looks. You get a little bit more coaching. You get a little bit more leeway sometimes. So I think Azuolas Tubelis is probably one of those guys that's going to wind up in Europe, and we'll hear about him occasionally about things that he's doing there. I don't see him developing into, as you said, you have to develop that 3-pointer. If you're a big like him, or at least a 4 like he is, you've got it. You can't just do that in the middle of an NBA season.
Brandon Williams had knee injuries and knee problems when he was at Arizona. He was with the Hawks G League team last year. Apparently, he's been picked up by the Timberwolves. For some of the players who have been playing overseas, like a Nico Mannion, you're not out of sight, out of mind like you are when you're playing overseas. So that's kind of the big issue that a lot of these players deal with is, you're not going to make a lot of money in the G League, but if somebody needs you, you're right there. Once you go overseas, but you make a lot more money. So, it's just a decision every player has to make. But there's good money overseas, and there's no shame in playing and taking that route.
No, but Nico Mannion's another one of those players where I think they get such a mindset when they're so highly recruited out of high school, and they go to the big programs. They go to Arizona, and in their mind, and everybody's telling them, you're a one and done. You're a one and done. You're a one and done. So they get 1 year in, and then they're done, and then they don't reach their full potential as a late teenager, an 18, 19-year-old, and then they get lost in the shuffle. They get thrown into that mix, and they're just another guy. and Nico's a guy that probably should have stayed another year.
Yeah, Nico Mannion though was the #1 high school point guard in the nation up in the Phoenix area. So just surprising that he hasn't made it a little bit further. He was a second round pick. Yeah, like I agree. He definitely could have used a second year. He was also the COVID year, so he didn't even have a full year of college. So
right.
All right. So anyway, Pat, since the basketball season ended, we've been trying to get an interview with Adia Barnes for 3 months unsuccessfully. What a change from several years ago when it wasn't an issue, but she's got a lot more going on now, and
she has a lot going on. Yeah,
and she's done some good things with the new charitable organization, if you will, or community project that she started in Tucson with one of the Boys and Girls Club. But the year after they made it to the championship game, the women's team made it to the second round, and then this past year, I believe they went out in the first round, right? So you had an interesting question for Adia. I finally got an interview, and I asked her something that you wanted to know, which was, possibly have expectations gotten a little bit too high for the Arizona women's program too soon, considering where they were several years ago when they were a perennial cellar dweller. So we talked to Adia Barnes, who thankfully we finally got an interview. Thank you, Adia. We couldn't get it live here on the Huddle, but I talked to her last week, and here's what Adia said based on whether the expectations for the women's basketball program have gotten a little too stretched.
People got too excited. I think just anytime you go that far and you're one basket away, I think the expectations are going to be really high. But there's every program goes through peaks and valleys, and I think the nature of college athletics is very different now than even was 3 years ago. So we had a great group. Ari, we got hot at the right time. I think all the stars have to align to go that far, even when you have the most talented team. So I think after that, people had a taste of it and wanted more, which even myself, I think I have to sometimes take a step back and say, wow, you're doing an amazing job with this program. And last year, you won 22 games and it felt like we won 10, because now my standards are so high too, because we were so close. I want to get back there and win, but it's really hard getting back there. Some people in their lifetimes, they never go there. So I think the standards are high, but that's okay. I mean, a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to win.
So for me, Pat, it's not so much the expectations based on getting to the championship game, but the expectations based on the players that have been recruited and coming in the last few years. That's what made me have high expectations, not the fact that they made it to the championship game, because obviously Ari McDonald's not here anymore.
And right along that same line, that's why I asked you to kind of ask that question. Was the expectations went up because you lost the national championship game on a missed shot at the buzzer, and then you were already your recruiting had already been ascending, but you got that big bump from that #1 class or top 3 class a couple of years in a row, and you're right. Then the expectation level even continues to grow because you're doing such a great job recruiting. And it just didn't translate on the court. You barely, you get to the second round 2 years ago. This past season, they go out in the first round after, just kind of sliding in. She's right. It's difficult to win. South Carolina remember South Carolina was going to win it all in the women's basketball tournament last year, and they got knocked off by Iowa, and then Iowa got beat by LSU. It's not easy. Stanford was supposed to be, right. They didn't make it. It's not every year. It's basically a couple of teams, but they don't always win it. It's hard, but we also thought that this program had elevated itself up to nearly that status. And what we're finding out is it's not easy to even maintain that kind of upper 1%, Jason. And right now I'd say Arizona's just behind that upper 1%. And hopefully, again, with another top recruiting class, they'll be able to get up there and kind of maintain and stay right there. Oh, your mic's breaking up, Jason. Go ahead. No, try again. Oh, having a little problem with Jason's mic. Go ahead and try it again, Jason, if you can. No, you're all staticky. So we're having problems with Jason's mic. I don't know if you want to try to take that mic off and just use the computer microphone. But right now, with the Adia Barnes situation, you were able to talk to her, I know, about a couple of other things as well. I think let's go ahead and, as Jason's working on his microphone, maybe we can play the next response that Adia Barnes had to Jason's question. Then we can kind of comment about that. So, Anna, if you want to go ahead and play the next answer from Adia Barnes.
For a freshman on a top 10 team. She played more than any other freshman in the country on a top 10 team. So she wasn't good enough to play more, because as a coach, you have a balance of trying to win games. Like, she wasn't ready to play more. And the thing is, I think the process is, if you look anywhere across the country, besides like a Paige Buchers or a Diana Taurasi in college, who didn't play a lot her freshman year anyways, it's very hard on a top 10 team to play more than 15 minutes. We're trying to win games. You have experienced players in front of you. I think there's a process. I mean, she was out for a month with a concussion. So there are a lot of things, but I think on the outside, no one understands that. They don't understand who misses what practice. They just see the exciting burst, but there's a lot that goes into that. So I think when you have a chance as a freshman to play 14, 15 minutes a game, that's a lot. And then, but she went down a level to play more. So I think that's good for her. So if you look at everybody across the board, they all went down a level in hopes for more playing time. And that's a good thing. And I think that's going to happen all the time.
Are you there, Jason?
I've got a different microphone.
Still breaking up just a little bit. Adia, clearly talking about playing time. Parris Clark playing time, and what Jason and I have been saying, and Jason, you got out in front of this right away during the season, is you get these people coming in as freshmen, they're number one recruits. It's a great recruit, and then all of a sudden you get perhaps somebody in the transfer portal, and you feel like you have to play them. In Parris Clark's situation, we never saw her really improve, and maybe we never even saw her as good as she was the year before that. And and Adia there very candidly saying that she wasn't able to play Parris Clark because she didn't deserve the playing time. And I thought that was a very eye-opening statement from Adia Barnes, because there is that juggling act, Jason, where you have to decide, who am I going to play as far as getting these freshmen time when they're trying to develop them, but can you develop them when you're trying to win games? And then you promise these transfer portal players playing time as well.
Okay, this is the computer mic. Does that work?
That's better. Yeah, that's better.
All right, so we'll do the computer mic for a little bit. I'll plug this in real fast. Tell me if this works okay. How's that?
That's better.
Better? Tell me. Break it up. Okay, so so the program hasn't gotten McDonald's All-Americans ever before. Now they get one in Parris Clark. Parris Clark doesn't play that much. And actually, she hit the game-winning shot. I'm like, Adia, Shayna Pellington, some other players were limited offensively. Why not just play Parris Clark and Kaylin Gilbert and let them ball out? And that was a candid answer. She wasn't good enough to play. Well, then she goes and transfers. I'd rather just take a little lumps and have a couple of turnovers and play Parris Clark a little bit. So then my next question was, okay, what about these three great freshmen coming in, Brea, Jada, and Montea? Are they going to play? And so our answer to that was, well, if they're good enough, they'll play. We want to win. So, I thought the team was a little limited offensively. I would have played Parris Clark and Kaylin Gilbert more. And that was kind of my question with that. So, it was a hard-hitting question, and it was direct. Why isn't she playing? And she gave an answer. Basically, we also don't see what's going on behind the scenes.
And I don't need to defend Adia Barnes whatsoever, but I'm just wondering if I put myself in that mindset of being a head coach, and it's, you want to develop players and you want to look towards the future, but then you've got that pressure to win right now. And maybe that's what Adia's really struggling with, is trying to build a program that sustains that level of a Stanford or a USC, but you can't have those really bad down years. So you're always fighting to continue to try to win while developing, and there's just not enough playing time to develop a player while you're trying to win. If you follow me, I think it's a real catch-22. Do you sacrifice a whole season to develop these players, or do you try to win while giving a little bit of time to develop players.
Yeah. So basically, I would have sacrificed last season. They only got to the first round anyway. All right. So let's touch on the Sugar Skulls, so we have time to pay tribute to the Ooh Man here at the end of the show. Pat, your Tucson Sugar Skulls make the playoffs for the third time in 4 years. They're going to host Green Bay in the regular season finale, but they don't play well at home, Pat.
No.
This team is what, 5 or 6-1 on the road and 2-5 at home?
They're 6-1 on the road now. They've wrapped up the road schedule, and they're 2-5 at home, a chance to win to make it 3-5.
How do you make sense of that?
I really can't. I think there is an us against the world mentality when you're on the road that seems to really maybe fit to Curtis Chin's style of coaching, and these guys get motivated. And I'm not saying they're not motivated to win at home. They certainly are. But there isn't that us against the world. It's, hey, let's perform well for our home fans who paid some money and are sitting in the stands. And they've had very good crowds the last couple of games, Jason, very good crowds. And that's the unfortunate part, is you get a big crowd and then you don't win the game. I mean, they've been close. It's not like they're not competitive, but they just can't get that play to get the score flipped so that they can win the game. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I joked about maybe Friday night you bus them up to Casa Grande, stay overnight, and you bus them back and play the game Saturday and pretend like it's a road game. I don't know.
For those who missed it, we did a little takeoff of Hard Knocks called Desert Blocks.
Very good.
For a week for the Sugar Skulls. So that's on our website, KGUN9, and the sports app if you want to check it out.
You're planning on doing that again for next week before they had
not this week, but the next
the next week when they get ready for the playoffs. So they'll play a playoff game coming up a week from Saturday. Most likely it'll be a Saturday game. And most likely right now, Jason, it looks like they're going to have to go to Bay Area, and that means Dixie Wooten, who's now officially the head coach of Bay Area, the Panthers. They are the number 2 seeds. Arizona Rattlers are the 1 seed in the West. Looks like Bay Area is going to be the number 2 seed. Looks like the Sugar Skulls will be the 3 seed, and Northern Arizona will be the 4 seed.
Okay, and finally, the Ooh Man. I got here, Pat, in Tucson in 2012. And so he was just around retiring that time. For those who aren't familiar, his real name is Joe Cavaleri. I think we've got a little video of him. And so he passed away at the age of 71. And for those who aren't familiar, the Ooh Man knew just when he was a super fan at McHale Center and other venues, and just when Arizona basketball needed it the most in the second half, when the team called timeout or something, trying to stop a run, need a little jolt, he would go onto the court and do his chants and turn the crowd into a frenzy. And it would help provide a psychological advantage for the Wildcats, made McHale Center an intimidating place for the other team as the fans went nuts, and made it super loud and helped Arizona to some big winning streaks. So big home winning streaks. So rest in peace, Joe Cavaleri, the Ooh Man, one of the unique traditions in college sports that gave the Wildcats an in-game psychological advantage.
Jason, I remember him when he first started out coming to McHale Center and getting the crowd fired up, as you mentioned, at those lulls. But when he was doing it then, we're talking about, I think he's credited with starting at the Arizona baseball games in the late 70s, like 79.
Right.
When I first saw him at an Arizona men's basketball game, it was probably 1981 or 1982, and that was the lean year or two. It was right before Lute Olson came. Things got a little lean with Ben Lindsay as the head coach, and he was all there was to really, no offense to the cheerleaders or the pep band or anything like that, but he kind of helped get people a little bit fired up. And then when Luke came, I think that's when he really took off. And I think he will always be remembered as the Ooh Man will always be remembered as much being that era of U of A basketball that really propelled them into being a national power. And he'll be missed. Unfortunately, his health was not good in recent years. And, he wasn't the same as he was back in those 1980s and 90s. But wow, he was something else. A lot of fun, very funny to watch, and really, really got Wildcat fans going.
Part of the atmosphere at McHale Center during the glory days, and a little bit sounds like before that as well too. So very good. All right, that's been this edition of the Huddle, KGUN9 streaming sports talk show. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. Thanks everybody for joining us live or on the tape delay on all the digital platforms. We appreciate it, and we'll be right back here next week. We should be.